The first time I built an HR department from scratch, I did everything right. Handbook, leave policy, code of conduct, probation structure, all of it, done in months. Nobody used any of it. And I couldn't understand why. Until the second time I had to do it all over again. And I tried something completely different.
So let's start at the beginning. You've built HR departments from scratch more than once in your career. Before we get into what you do differently, set the scene for us. What does it actually feel like to walk into an organization and realize there is no HR function here at all?
It's a strange mix of excitement and quiet panic, honestly. The excitement is obvious. You're building something. There's no legacy system to fight, no inherited mess to untangle. You get a blank page. But the panic comes quickly, because a blank page also means there's nothing holding the organization together from a people standpoint. No contracts that hold up legally, no leave system, no appraisal structure, and often, no one in leadership who has ever thought seriously about these things, because they've been running on relationships and informal agreements, and it's worked until now. You're not just building a department. You're building trust in a function that doesn't have a track record in that organization yet.
And that trust issue, is that where the story of your two contrasting experiences begins?
Exactly. And I learned this the hard way the first time.
Walk me through the first time. What did you do and what happened?
The first time, I did everything that every HR textbook tells you to do. I started with documentation. Employee handbook, done. Leave structure, done. Code of conduct, done. Probation policy, done. I spent months building this entire framework of policies that covered every scenario I could think of. And when I was finished, I was genuinely proud of it. It was thorough. It was compliant. It was, on paper, exactly what an HR department should look like. And then, almost none of it got used.
None of it? Even the things that were legally required?
The compliance pieces, yes. People followed those because they had to. But the spirit of it, the performance framework, the learning pathways, the values-based conduct guidelines, all of it sat in a folder that nobody opened. And it took me a while to understand why. Because I kept thinking, this is good work. This is what HR should be. Why isn't anyone engaging with it? The answer was simple, but it took me longer than I'd like to admit to see it. Nobody trusted the function yet. I had spent all my time building the systems before I had built any credibility. HR had no track record in that organization. People didn't see it as something that existed to help them. They saw it as something that existed to govern them. And when you show up with a rule book before you've shown up with a relationship, that's the perception you create.
So the policies themselves weren't the problem. The sequence was.
Exactly. The policies were fine. The order was wrong.
So when you found yourself in the same situation again, blank page, no HR function, what did you do differently?
I put the documents away. For the first 30 days, I wrote almost nothing. Instead, I sat with people. Specifically, I sat with line managers, the people who were actually running teams, making hiring decisions informally, handling conflicts without any process to lean on. And I asked them one question in different ways. What is actually breaking? Where is hiring slow and frustrating you? Where are you losing people and you don't know why? Where are decisions being made that feel unfair, either to you or to your team? Where are you having conversations that you shouldn't have to have alone?
And what did you find?
I found a completely different set of priorities than the ones I'd assumed. The biggest pain point wasn't the absence of a handbook. It was that hiring was taking 3 months for roles that should have taken 3 weeks, because there was no defined process, and every manager was doing it differently. That was costing real money and real momentum. The second biggest issue was that nobody could explain clearly what good performance looked like in their team. So feedback conversations were uncomfortable and inconsistent, and people didn't know where they stood. None of that was in my original policy list. I had built for compliance. I should have built for pain points.
So when the policies did come, were they received differently?
Night and day. Because by the time I introduced them, the managers had been part of the conversation that created them. They weren't receiving a set of rules from HR. They were receiving solutions to problems they had told me about personally. The adoption was almost immediate, and more importantly, the relationship between HR and the rest of the organization started from a completely different place. HR wasn't the department that shows up with policies. HR was the department that shows up, listens, and fixes things.
You said something in the write-up I read before this conversation that really stayed with me. You said, people don't resist HR. They resist HR that shows up with rules before it shows up with understanding. That's a pretty direct challenge to how a lot of HR functions operate.
It's not a criticism of the people in those functions. It's a criticism of how we've been trained to think about the job. Most HR education, most HR frameworks, most HR job descriptions, they center on the outputs, the policies, the compliance, the processes. And those things matter. They're necessary. But they're outputs, not starting points. The starting point is credibility. And credibility in HR comes from one place: demonstrating that you understand the business and the people in it before you start telling them what to do.
So for someone listening right now who is building an HR function or rebuilding one, what does the first 30 days actually look like if they take your approach?
3 things. First, schedule one-to-one conversations with every line manager in the organization. Not a survey, not a group session. One-to-one, where they can be honest without an audience. Ask them what's breaking. Ask them what's costing them time. Ask them what HR could do that would make their life easier tomorrow, not in 6 months. Second, attend operational meetings as an observer. Don't speak. Just watch how decisions get made, where the friction is, who the informal leaders are. You'll learn more in 2 weeks of observation than you will in months of onboarding documents. Third, solve one visible problem fast. Not a big strategic initiative. One small, painful, annoying problem that people have been living with. Fix it quickly and visibly. That single act of usefulness does more for HR's credibility than any policy launch ever will. The framework will write itself after that. Once you know what's broken, the solutions are usually obvious.
This has been such a grounded, honest conversation. Before we close out, what's the one thing you want someone to walk away with from everything you've shared today?
HR is not a service you deliver to employees. It's a relationship you build with them. Every system, every policy, every framework only works to the extent that people trust the function behind it. And trust is built before the first document is written, not after. If you get that sequence right, everything else follows.